I got a bone to pick with the UFC. And I hate when the UFC does this, when they rush these international cards like 1 month out when none of their big stars are going to be ready. They did the same thing with UFC 293. Like, they had a number one contender fight at middleweight booked in July, and then instantly Dana White announces the Sydney card for September. Of course, the number one contender that unfolded, Dricus, was not ready, so of course Sean stepped in. But also you had other Australian stars like Volk and Hooker fight in July. They weren't ready to fight in Australia in September, and they almost were in jeopardy of not even having a headliner for the Sydney card until Strickland saved the day and fought Adesanya. But now we've ran into a similar issue with UFC Shanghai. The UFC, they went ahead, they made this card in China December 9th without having a headliner in place. They didn't come prepared with the main event. I mean, there were some rumors sparking that Zhang Weili would return on this card and headline against Yan Xiaonan. That's like a clear no-brainer, but now Dana White's coming out and saying that fight's not going to be in China. I'm hearing rumblings that Weili Zhang is not ready to come back in December after recently fighting in August, that she needs a bit more time, that she might be injured. And of course, the alternate for that was, okay, if no Weili, it was going to be Peter Yan versus Song Yadong, but of course Yan pulls out, and still they have no replacement for Song Yadong. It looks like they're not even planning on giving Song Yadong a replacement, because, I mean, who would replace Peter Yan to fight Song Yadong? Aljamain Sterling just came off a knockout loss to Sean O'Malley. He says he's not coming back till 2024. Merab is not going to step in because he's either going to, get a title shot or fight Henry Cejudo. And then Corey Sandhagen, he just beat Song not too long ago, and he's recovering from an injury. And he's not coming back till early next year, so that's not happening. I would just say reschedule the Rob Font fight, but they already went ahead and made Rob Font versus Davis and Figueiredo, so that can't happen. Okay, Marlon Vera could be a good alternate, but I think Marlon Vera might be next for Sean O'Malley. I think that might be the fight. Unless they give Merab the shot, Marlon can step in, because I know that would be a loss Marlon would want to get back, since, Marlon felt he was robbed. He should have won that fight. That could be a good rematch. I just don't know if it would be made. Dominic Cruz, I don't know where he's at. He hasn't fought at all this year. He clearly isn't going to. I heard he was recovering from a shoulder injury, so that's not happening. I don't want to see Pedro Munoz in there with Song Yadong. I'm not trying to see him get beat up by like another top-tier, high-caliber opponent. No thanks. Maybe Jonathan Martinez, but he's not really a big enough name. I feel like this would be too soon of a step up for him. But you know what? Ricky Simone and Song Yadong headlined a fight night card, so maybe they could just make Jonathan Martinez versus Song Yadong as the main event. But if they don't find Song a replacement, he's not going to fight on this card. What is the UFC's plan? Because right now it seems like they have no plan. I mean, look at this card. Like, I don't even know who half these fighters are. I don't know who any of these guys are on this card. Like, Zhang, a different Zhang. I don't even know how to spell his last name. It's not the Zhang, though, that we were all hoping to see headline this card. And he's taken on Brenson Ribeiro or whatever. And then Sue versus Allen something. Oh, Andre Muniz is on here versus Park Jun Young. We got Nasrat Hasprak versus Jamie Malarkey. I'm not even going to bother reading out the rest. You can see for yourself on the screen. But so far, not a good card. None of these fights are worthy of being a headliner. They got to find a big name, and they got to be fast with it. Maybe they got to, I don't know. Maybe Zhang could change her mind if she's not that banged up, or if she's healthy. They could pay Weili Good to, like, do a 1 month, not 1 month turnaround. That would be 4 months from her last fight. But, headline in front of her home nation home crowd 1 month notice against Yan Xiaonan. But if they can't do that, here's the obvious choice, UFC. And I was thinking about this, but of course they're not going to listen to me. If Wei Li is so adamant that she cannot fight in China, not enough time, okay, you could still have Yan Xiaonan fight on that card. You know who she could fight? Tatiana Suarez. Since there's a bit of a conflict between who should be next for Wei Li, why not have both of them fight, have both of them headline this China card, 5-round main event, first 5-round fight for both fighters, especially Tatiana. Not too sure if Yan's been 5 rounds before, but I know Tatiana hasn't. 5-round main event, title eliminator, winner fights Wei Li, first quarter 2024 in the spring. Problem solved. Call up Yan Xiaonan, call up Tatiana Suarez right now, and let's get going. That card is not for like another 6 weeks. There's still time to put together a headliner like this. But of course, the UFC, they ain't going to listen. They're not going to book Yan Xiaonan versus anybody, especially Tatiana Suarez. And they're not going to find Song a replacement. I mean, what's the alternative here? Are they just going to find like a non-Chinese headliner? Like, are they just going to have 2 non-Chinese fighters headline this card? Or is it going to come down to them canceling this card and having it in the Apex like they did when they were supposed to go to Korea earlier this year, but then that got canceled because Zombie pulled out, and then instead the card was in the Apex? They might end up doing that with this card, but I hope the UFC takes my word of advice. And if they can't get Wei Li on here, even though Wei Li literally posted about this card on her Instagram, and she's training, you know, I just hope they can make Yan Xiaonan versus Tatiana Suarez. If it makes perfect sense to have 2 top 3 strawweight contenders go at it, and in China, as a headliner to set up the next title fight in the strawweight division with Yan and Suarez. But of course, that's just not going to happen. You know, they should do it, but knowing the UFC's dumbass, like Dana White's going to hold off Yan Xiaonan to fight Wei Li like early next year in the United States, which is a complete waste because originally the plan was always to have this fight happen in China. China versus China in China. That's where the money is at. And they're not going to do that. I just wonder why the UFC went ahead and put this card in China when losing out on Song versus Yan and not finding an alternative main event, you know, and knowing Wei Li can't make the card. Like, do they know something we don't? Is Wei Li secretly ready? Are they secretly like working on Wei Li versus Yan Xiaonan? Is that fight in silence in the works? Is that why? Like, I don't get it. Because, you know what they could have done? They could have just had this card in Vegas in the Apex from the beginning. Once Yan pulled out, they couldn't get a replacement. And still have it like China themed, like they did in 2021 with Brunson versus Tillhouse. That one wasn't in the UK. Still in the Apex, but a lot of UK fighters there. You know what I mean? They could have done the same thing with this one, but nope, they're going straight to China. Underprepared. I guess we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think in the comments.